Good morning, everybody. It's Friday, the 28th of March. I hope you're all doing really well and really enjoying the sun now that he's finally come out to show himself. Um, I've just dropped in to do an energy update today for April, or my April newsletter kind of thing. And as always, I kind of review back to forward as to what has been going on through the progressions as what's going on in this from what I've been seeing in a linear kind of manner. But obviously this also connects beyond linear time because sometimes I'm going to be looking back to last year, sometimes I'm going to be looking back to the start of the month, and then just kind of building a narrative and a story the way that um, things do to me, really. Um, so I just I'll start with a couple of housekeeping things. So I'm going to do the self-care session on Tuesday, the 1st of April, because on Wednesday I've got to go in for another surgery. So I'm going to be off for like 2 weeks, um, just recovering. So from the 2nd to the 16th, I'll go back to work on the 17th. So I'm just going to be kind of doing my thing and recovering there. Hopefully, this will be the last surgery that I have to have. I really hope so because I'm getting kind of sick of it. And um, yeah, I'm sure you can all understand, nobody really wants to have to go and be put under anesthetic or anything like that because it's not a very comfortable experience. It's not a very pleasant experience. And then the recovery time afterwards is not really that fun. But it's also a really great time to kind of sit and listen without actually having to kind of go in and kind of tune in. You just are present with um, what's going on around you, which is a lovely experience actually because you find um, so much more peace in the process of going in, and there is no kind of forced entry. There is no kind of, oh, I'm trying to get this done. I'm trying to get this sorted. You just relax into it, and really that's the way it should be done, without any kind of force or anything like that. Um, so yeah, that's the uh, that's what's going on for me on Wednesday for like 2 weeks. And then on the 18th, Good Friday, I will do an event on the Aurora Host. And then on the 20th, on the Easter Sunday, an event on the Aurora Host, which is on my website, which you kind of sign up to. It's a subscription. Um, that I do 4 sessions a month on there. It's either like a kind of Q&A, a talk, a meditation, and like a healer circle. So I think on the Good Friday and the Easter Sunday, it will be revolving around meditations, and then maybe the 24th and the 28th will potentially be like a kind of a Q&A and a talk kind of thing. Just because I'm trying to maintain my commitments and honor the work that I'm doing already. So that's the kind of the housework that I need to do, or the housekeeping that just needed to kind of get out to you there. So let's jump into the energy report for April. So through February, we went through multiple alignments, multiple realignments of Hirogamic Union, and this kind of phased into the Piscean solar alchemy. So the Piscean solar alchemy phase is the last stage within the alchemical year. And then we move into around Easter, actually, on the 16th. So when I come back to work, we move into the Aries solar alchemy. And that then dials up a whole load of stuff, which I'll talk about next month because it's a different story. But the Piscean solar alchemy is the kind of herogamic union and the ascension alignment pathway for the most for all parts of yourself that are ready to kind of accelerate and kind of evolve. So what we saw within February is we moved into a twin flame herogamic gate around the 22nd. And then that birthed a whole load of union consciousness, or it didn't birth it, it kind of just enabled it and encrypted it for every area that is ready to kind of come together as one. So opposing forces, one level of polarity, another level of polarity that's done enough work to come back together and unify. That's what went on through that gate. And this then carried on through March. And it's significant because this actually triggered a whole load of healing to something called the sextant matrix. Now, the sextant matrix is a little bit more complicated and I don't fully understand it, but I'll just tell you what I do understand at the moment. And maybe the divine will chime in as they do with more information. So the sextant matrix basically coordinates the gender centers in the body, or in the light body, sorry. That I'm going to get down to my notes actually. So it measures the angle and rotation of the currents between the gender centers, and this functions into the Merkaba levels on the 3, 6, 9, and 12. Now, this part I did swipe from the glossary because when they started talking to me about gender centers, I was like, not gender centers, about the sextant matrix, I was kind of a bit lost for words. But I'll get into, I did that down the line after I kind of got the information that I needed downloaded into me. So what happened was effectively I was taken through this polarity integration, this harmonization between the gender centers in the body, and this opened up a vision of the immortal body. Okay, so the immortal body is the eternal light body that never dies. And what I saw was the I suppose it's like kind of transfiguration. Because the Diamond Council of High Alchemy came in as well and gave me a big update on transfiguration. I think that might be the right word. I'm not entirely sure. But the jump from our physical format, so the immortal body was presented to me, which was in relation to this gender center update, which turns out the biological clock is governed by the sextant matrix. So when the sextant matrix had been damaged and we've undergone all of these different kind of hijacks to our form, hijacks to our DNA, hijacks to our kind of physical body, this has then mutated the sextant matrix, and it's also been mutated up there within the gender centers by splitting the herogamic union apart. So as we stepped into Aries solar Pisces solar alchemy, we went through and the Hirogamic um, gateway of 22nd of February. This brought the gender centers back together. Now, not or the energies that flow within the gender centers back together, and this is not like it's not all done in one go, as we all know, but I do just have to kind of stress that here because the progression of this, I was actually shown a cuckoo clock fast forwarding to 2031. And even then, I don't feel like our physical bodies are going to just kind of like vanish and then we're just going to become light. But what I was shown was a silver plasma coming through time, like such a huge amount of silver plasma coming through time and returning, breaking through red, orange, yellow grids back into the physical body, and then the physicality began to phase away. So this was significant in the vision because I felt like we're going through a more rapid trajectory to shed the physicality. So it's not just going to vanish. And obviously, everyone's at their own level and stage and process. So it's quite hard to kind of comprehend how many people are kind of going through this. I think to some degree everyone's going through. In fact, to some degree everyone's going through it, but just all at different stages. So everyone's going to have their own unique experience and their own unique kind of you know, change. And I don't think in 2031 there's going to be lots of people just turning into light at all, because that would be ungrounded and unrealistic. But I do think we'll be going through a rapid, intense shift that sheds the layers of physicality and sheds the layers of the ego in order to make the body become lighter and lighter and lighter. And then matched with that, we've got the conversion of negative consciousness that goes into a more kind of positive trajectory, but these are choice points in between. So I think, yeah, it's a bit of a process that we're kind of going through. And this is just kind of accelerating us to come into the second harmonic universe, into the soul matrix. So yeah. So that was very interesting to see at the start of the month. So going back into the sextant matrix. The sextant matrix has been kind of damaged with what's called a metatronic reversal current, or a reversed electron current, which basically compacts the molecules and ultimately creates ultimately kind of creates cellular diseases like cancers or whatnot. It's yeah, these are going through a process of being reversed. So as we went through that Hirogamic gate, this brought the polarized frequencies that were being intentionally split apart, and where we'd kind of like stepped into our own kind of polarity functions by that trauma. this had then kind of unified through the gender centers and run corrections into the sextant matrix, which then kind of reclaimed a big chunk of the pathway towards the um, immortal body. So that was a really big kind of thing that came in at the start of the month, around our healing and around our hierogamic union. And there is more around that, but I'm just going to jump a little bit as well, because when through February, when we had all of this, for January, December, January, February, when we had all of this um, deep masculine healing, deep purification of the rod. So dealing with the Ezekiel family, we were dealing with the universal rod damage that happened in the eighth gate. This triggered the healing or the realignment for the feminine. So when the masculine had kind of deconstructed, reconstructed, and aligned more into its kind of nobility, this open space for the feminine to come back into realignment. And of course, the wounding that takes place between the masculine and the feminine was addressed, and it was the feminine's turn to kind of go through a processing and go through a realignment, re-encryption. And this started to restore the vertical staff current, so our connection to the divine, the connection to heaven, that stabilized with the staff and rod current, which is also a function within the gender centers, or kind of governs within the gender centers as well. And fundamentally, hierogamic union. So having both of those architectures that work together, they repair a big chunk of our ratios between masculine and feminine energies. So there is a big, like I said, the big restructure of hierogamic union as we kind of stepped into the Piscean solar alchemy. Okay. Now, this was also quite interesting, because I've had a number of clients that have had quite discomfort in their pancreas. And I too had discomfort within the pancreas as well. And this was really interesting because a couple of years ago, I did a deep clean on my pancreas and pulled up a lot of dark mother structures that were kind of pilfering through and kind of distorting the pancreatic production and the ability to nourish. I was also an absolute sugar addict as well. So there was, I mean, to this day, I've now replaced a lot of my sugars with fruit, thankfully. But still to this day, sometimes you can't resist a vegan cookie with like a bit of vegan chocolate chips and things like that within it. But now very few and far between, or even some banana bread or something like that. But to this day now, very few and far between. And with this healing of the pancreas, the 2 years prior, there was the reconstruction of the dark mother currents that were looping through within this, which was actually kind of destroying the ability to nourish one's body, destroying the ability to kind of fulfill the body with the sweetness and the nourishment of the true mother presence. This has started to reconnect and come back in. So there's been a reconstruction of the divine mother, cosmic mother channels that are interjecting or relaying her light through the pancreas, which is opening up to reconnect the power center. Okay, so on the right side, we've got the masculine running through the liver, and then the left side, we've got the feminine coming in through the pancreas, which is working together through the stomach to provide nourishment and nutrients at the solar plexus, basically, which then works to restore the gut. So where we've been kind of consuming crap or not being able to kind of fulfill our needs, or the rise in diabetes that's been kind of coming about. We're seeing lots of people with these little strange discs on their the back of their arms that's kind of feeding them insulin. This is providing the diet is in order, providing the energetics are being done, like the energetic healing is being done, the rehabilitation of the psychology is being done. This should start to see the rehabilitation of these nourishment issues. And it's just another step forward towards that. Now, obviously, I'm not telling people to kind of go and stop taking your insulin and things like that, because your doctor is going to assist you to know what your levels are and how safe it is, and whether your body will also respond to that as well. So yeah, it's just important to take that disclaimer into fact there, that I can't really kind of give insight, but I can't give medical advice, but this is what I have been experiencing. And just for the record, I'm not diabetic either, but I did think that this was very interesting, how all of this dark mother consciousness was being kind of stripped away from the pancreas and replaced with the true connection to Divine Mother. So yeah, that was really lovely. Okay. Right, I'm just checking back through my notes. Okay, so we're gonna kind of jump back to the immortal body. So okay, so just after the Hirogamic union, the immortal body came into my awareness again. Then we went through the alignments of Hieros Gamos, and this kind of was more of a universal Hieros Gamos, but where it happens up at the top, this then trickles down layer by layer and starting to correct the bridge points between the two worlds. And what in the image that I kind of saw at the time, it's kind of like an image slash video that I saw at the time, I was seeing a big chunk of it very open and clear. And the interesting point was the areas of shadow within it that I haven't quite clocked into yet. And I know that I haven't quite clocked into them because it's always a kind of process. But what I could then use that as a tool for was diving into that area of shadow to kind of start to unlock it and open it. And I think probably the most important thing we can do when we are healing or when we are kind of remote viewing things is any area of shadow or any area that is difficult to see, it means that it hasn't opened up clearly. And therefore we don't have light running through it. So and this runs in tandem for people that are just kind of starting out and they're trying to kind of get into meditation, trying to get visions and things like that. There will be a degree where you'll have to sit with and process and unlock to be able to get that open. And this is a kind of, I actually quite love that role because making the unconscious conscious is the way to kind of illuminate the body and start to heal really, really deeply. It's just many people don't realize that they've got the ability to do it. And I think it's something that everybody should be practicing and recognizing that we all fundamentally do have this ability to unlock our consciousness and evolve it. So yeah. Okay. So again, with this theme of herogamic union, as we kind of jumped up towards the midpoint of the month, I think it was the midpoint when the lunar eclipse was. It was about the 13th, 14th. The deep theme of the lunar eclipse, again in tandem with the herogamic union gateway, we then went through a deep processing of the relationships we hold within us and the relationship we have within our partners. So the the highlight of the lunar eclipse I found was pinpointing areas within myself, um, as a twin flame relationship was very strong, but also it was reflected through in my physical relationship with my partner. And this was really interesting to me because I found it was so easy to lay a whole bunch of things to rest because we've got this strong charge of love that's circulating through the month, through this alchemical union. It was able to override any kind of negative ego, bickering and bitchiness, um, where historically it would have been quite normal. But I think being able to find solution to it and forgiveness, having had this herogamic gate open in February, which has then triggered all of this information, um, come back into realignment and finalize into kind of forgiveness. And this, we also had another opening, not just on a kind of horizontal level, because I think the lunar eclipse was just before the equinox, which also triggered a vertical alignment with the highest aspect of self. And more recently, for me, it's been going into the kind of God worlds, connecting with the Emerald Order, connecting with the source field and the law of, not the law of one, sorry, the unified field of one. Um, so what's kind of come about with that is the preparation for contact, number one, which initiated, um, over the equinox, a very deep connection with the highest guidance point. And it was actually really magical. And I'm not sure how everyone else kind of experienced it. I can only kind of talk from my own experience, but I did feel like this was going into a kind of collective position where everyone was kind of tapping into their more higher aspects of self and or their highest aspect of self, to say the least, um, in order to prepare them, sorry, for, um, the embodiment of their highest self. So what this triggered for me was, um, something that was quite personal, and very powerful. Was my, just before I went into the dark night of the soul in 2018, I think it was 6 years ago. I think it's 6 or 7 years ago. Um, the death sequence when I ended up in hospital. So I took an intentional overdose and, went into hospital, and I stayed there for 2 weeks, but for 3 of those days upon admittance, I lay in the dark as if I'd kind of like died. And I didn't talk to anyone, I didn't eat anything. I kind of just went through the process of just, um, really deep purge. So I was kind of taken back to this point with the Emerald Order, and I was shown the kind of parallel to the kind of like crucifixion, resurrection, 3 days of darkness um, process. And I was able to actually heal it. I was able to kind of sit with it and get light moving through it again. And even now, as I kind of like look back to it, I know it was only last week. Um, I can actually see it kind of coming back to life. I feel it coming back to life. I actually felt it coming back to life on the day. But these kind of resurrection points, when we go through these really intense experiences, it's a whole paradigm, ego shattering change that needed to happen. These things need to happen. Um, Obviously, given the circumstances, it could have been done in a very different way. And I think there is always a choice, but it's how much we choose to listen. Um, it gave me a whole new life, one where I was sober, one where I got sober, one where I found happiness and I found love, I found connection. Um, and for that, I'm so grateful for that experience because it's completely changed every single one of my relationships in my life. It's it for the better. As difficult as it was at the time, I can absolutely say I can forgive every single one person that I interacted with in the past. And I can certainly say that I can forgive myself because I don't need to hold on to it because that experience, that death rebirth experience, which was then presented to me as the ascension, which is the final stage of the Piscean solar alchemy, which, funnily enough, actually happened around Easter. Now that I think about it, that gave me the chance to let go of everything, and I didn't quite understand it at the time because it was fucking horrific. But it was also incredibly magical at the same time. I mean, like beyond magical. The fact that we can go through something so severe but completely rise from the ashes and find the life of your dreams. It's insane. Oh, wow. Okay. So yeah, so that happened. And I think a lot of other people kind of went through um, a choice point as they kind of connect into their highest aspects, their highest counterparts. It pushes us to look at the parts that are the most separate, that needed the most reviewing and the most looking at in order to change the perception and come into love in the situation in order to align the lowest parts of the self to the highest parts of the self in order for them to harmonize and balance. And this is kind of what we're working towards, whenever that's going to be, whenever we are going to be met with our um, highest points, which is going to be different for everyone. This effectively works as a very, very, very deep reconstruction of polarity integration, and it enables us to kind of shed our egos in order to accommodate the highest part of us to come into our embodiment, which is just such a gorgeous thing to experience and understand and then kind of go through. These experiences, these high light experiences catalyze so much change And where we already are changing, we're able to accommodate the best part of ourselves to come in and take its place. And for that, I'm very, very grateful. And I'd do it all again if I had the chance. Um, so yeah, that is the energy report. It's the solar eclipse tomorrow. Um, so I wish you all a wonderful solar eclipse. I wish you all a fabulous start to your Aries solar alchemy new year, your new alchemical cycle. And I hope you have a lovely April. Loads of love, everybody. Okay, you take care. Bye for now.